everyone, Cone here. Welcome back to Let's Race with Cone. This is a series first started with the channel a long time ago, now a year ago. It was the first thing I did on the channel. I did Let's Race with Cone in Live for Speed. I've decided to bring it back in a little bit different format. I did a season of Live for Speed and 2 seasons with iRacing. I've decided to kind of just change that into a general thing that I do. Any kind of racing game besides F1, because F1 is its own little animal, and I promise you we will record the final race of F1 2012. Just waiting on Joe to get his computer set up in his new house. But any kind of, I'm just gonna make it any kind of racing game I want to do, pretty much. And you know, if I'm in the mood to play some next car game, we're gonna play some next car game. And I happen to be in the mood right now to play some of that, so I've got it open here. The game's been updated a little bit. Not too much since our last little first look video. I have figured out, thanks to watching Kurt J. Max videos, that you can change parts on the cars. So we were just using the basic stuff before. I have a feeling that is what the AI cars use as well. We'll see about that now, because I am going to fit a 500 horsepower engine and some Tarmac tires to this car. We're going to go race on the Tarmac surface, and something tells me our performance is going to be drastically improved. I think the AI cars are going to be struggling to keep up, because I don't believe they get these upgrades, or have the choice of it. Also, new from last video, I'm using the steering wheel. Just on a whim, I thought I'd try it out, and it's actually really comfortable. It's much less... what's the word? It's much less jerky than it was in Flat Out. It was never a very good experience to use the wheel with that game, but so far here, it's looking pretty good. So that's enough talking. Let's get to some racing. We're gonna go to the Tarmac. I'd like to do the Tarmac with, I guess you can only do 12 cars. That's okay. But now we're going no driving assists, not even automatic transmission. I can use the paddles on the wheel. So let's start the race. Alrighty. So I haven't tried this car with the wheel yet. I tried the other car. We'll get to that later. Something I want to show you with that car. But let's see how this goes compared to the last attempt. Here we are. So, not into gear. I forgot how crazy these guys are. So you can tell, I mean, I know you can't see the steering wheel, but I'm putting quite a bit of steering input into it. But you would kind of expect that, because these are not race cars. You know, it's a muscle car with a roll cage and now a 500 horsepower motor and some Tarmac tires on it. It's certainly not a fine-tuned race car though, so it wouldn't have a close ratio gearbox though. Steering box. So I kind of I'm okay with this. Oops, real wide turning radius. But overall, it's pretty comfortable to drive in a way that it reacts in a pretty sane manner. It definitely surprised me. I did not expect this much control with the steering wheel. It's still not a simulation, don't be confused. Just because it drives pretty well with the steering wheel, it certainly does not represent real-world driving conditions at all. Well, I would say all, but not everything is kind of funned up, is how I would describe it. Surprisingly, the AR cars are doing pretty good against this thing. So maybe they do get the upgrades, or some of the cars have the upgrades, some of them don't. I've been driving the other car a lot, and this one's proving to be a little bit more of a handful. That extra power could have an impact on that too. Okay, let's focus on catching this guy. This is a tight turn here. The brakes, again, not a race car. It's probably got, you know, modeled after disc and drum brakes from 1970 whatever. But they're a little touchy in the way that they just lock up very quickly. Another thing is we can do the manual shifting, we don't have the clutch option, so there's no clutch at all. I mean, you can't even select it. It's all done for you. It's basically like driving a Manumatic. Like, I'm not lifting my foot at all. Go to the next gear and you're going to hear it lifts for you. But that's a little bit to be expected for a game like this. So, final lap here. Pretty good shape. Oh, if I can stop running wide there. Okay. One thing you can see is new on the damage screen over there. It shows the engine, and if the engine itself is damaged, and they are modeling that. I think it's based off of car contact damage, not like over-revving damage. Oops. But it does, if it gets damaged, it does slow you down. And of course, if that gets to critical, it will end your race. I think that is a victory. So they held in okay for possibly not having upgrades. More options in the AI would be nice, like different difficulty settings. I don't know, maybe even a percentage, like 110% if you were really kicking their butt. Sometimes you just want a challenge, even if it's not. I don't know. Even if it's not like naturally inspired, you have to crank up the AI difficulty to get to it. Sometimes I would rather have that. So that is the Tarmac. Oops, I wanted to go out. Let's try, since that went pretty smoothly, let's try, if it will let me, let's try a gravel one. So I'll quit. Yes, return to the garage. I have not tried a demolition derby with the wheel yet. That's probably the one situation you're not going to want the wheel. You know, you got to do so much finesse. With like the short little moves, you'd be all over the place constantly. It's not impossible, I would say, but I think a controller or a keyboard would probably be better for that. So let's modify this car now. Put some gravel tires on there, and I think I'm actually going to stick with the 300 horsepower engine. I don't think I want that much power for the gravel. So let's skip these and let's go to the gravel, and let's start a race. So I did pretty okay with the gravel last time, but not great. So we'll see how the wheel impacts that. I'm hoping it's going to be a little better because I was struggling to save the car earlier with the keyboard. So hopefully the wheel will give me a little bit more control. If you're wondering, it is a Logitech G27. So I do have the ability to use a clutch and the gear shifter if that gets implemented, and that would be super cool if they did. Alright, so now we got a timer start here. And they like to take each other out of this cart. Whoop, and me! Ouch! Well, let's just go ahead and restart that one, shall we? That was going nowhere good. Okay. So yeah, it is really fun to see the AI not only just go after you, they're going after each other. They want everybody gone. And they do a darn good job of it. They're not always so great at following the racing line, though. Whoa, 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 whoa. Easy, buddy. I think having the gear selection is actually going to help out a lot here, because I can kind of, whoops, ow. Well, I just pole vaulted this thing. How we doing? Oh, we're okay. Not too much damage. What was I saying? Oh, the gear selection. Yeah, that's important. I think that it's not always just trying to find gears. I find their automatic shifting to be a little awkward at times. Whoa, whoa, whoa. So sometimes it's nice to have the control over the shifting. I am having to put a lot of wheel into it. I mean, I'm probably going, this is a full 900-degree wheel, so you could go up to a 3-turn, but I'm having to go almost over cross-armed to make some of these turns. But that is true life. If you were driving a car like this, you'd be having to turn the wheel that much for sure. though I understand true to life is not exactly their intention here, but stuff like that just makes a game, even an arcade game, just feel so much more natural. It's one of the biggest complaints I have with the Need for Speed and Gran Turismo series, is the cars always feel like they are go-kart-like steering. They don't have a real good long steering arc that makes you really feel like you're driving a car. And it just kind of spoils the sense of the illusion of being actually behind the wheel. Which, while we're here, let's try that. So there is an in-car camera. The wheel doesn't turn yet and stuff like that, but I'm sure it'll be implemented. There is a slight problem of when you damage the hood or whatnot, you can't see crap. But overall, a pretty good interior view. It's static, it doesn't move, your head doesn't move around, but it still works just fine. Luckily, I know this track well enough. Okay, 11th place. Okay, that's not great. Not great. It's garage. I don't know what button that is. Yeah, it's giving me the controls for an Xbox controller. Although it set up the wheel very easily. It knew right away what wheel it was and what settings to put on that. But the buttons and whatnot are acting as if it's an Xbox controller, which I suspect a lot of people would use and would work just fine. Personally, I like a wheel rather than the joysticks for any racing game. If it's a racing game and I have to use the thumbsticks, I'm not going to be a happy camper. Alrighty, so there's one more thing I want to show you, and that is something I kind of found out on accident, and that's with this little guy. So this is the European car. It is rear-engined. I guess it's kind of... I'll be honest, I don't know what it's based on. Maybe a little bit of bug. Maybe there's some British car I am missing out on the inspiration for it. I am not sure. It looks very familiar. But it is rear-engined, and you can do some stuff to it as well. So we're going to put a bigger engine in it and some Tarmac tires. Yep, we got both of those. Let's go racing. And we're going to skip all of these, and we're just going to go to the practice Tarmac. And all these settings. So this car has a pretty special attribute for being rear-engine, and it's something I'm massively impressed that they modeled, and that is snap oversteer. And what that means is when you lift off the gas, it wants to spin around, especially on corner entry. And what that has set up is a car that is basically a drift machine, and a game that I think very possibly people could turn into their own drifting game. Like, when I was really big into Live for Speed, there was a whole section of people that did nothing but drift in Live for Speed. Because it honestly had a very similar feel to this, where it was just, the force feedback worked with you, everything just felt like it was very natural to do it. Oh yeah, that was a little loud. You can see I'm not really trying that hard, and I'm getting some pretty good strings of drifts together. I'm no drifter. I'm more of a grip guy, but oops. But I know the basics of what I'm doing. It's unfortunate you don't have any clutch control or anything like that, so you can't clutch get it going. But you got a pretty well modeled e-brake. There's a really good section of this track in the middle that's good for it. So let's get over there again. You can see it just kind of hangs perfectly, and then it will catch itself, and you can very easily correct it. Let's try and get it to do that snap oversteer thing. Or off-throttle oversteer, or I guess is what it would technically be called. So basically, all of this section is based off of me, whoops, in the grass. That doesn't really count. Was all based off of me just lifting off the throttle mid-turn to get it to come around. And that is a very real-world kind of application. That is a large basis of what drifting is throttle control to get the car to to start to slide. So there's not too much to explore in this game. There's not a lot of track options, not a lot of car options just yet. But just an early preliminary opinion. I have a feeling there's going to be a drifting scene in this game, just off the way that it feels to me. Only time will tell is if Bugbear decides we need to capitalize on this. And if they do, I hope they do it just like it is. Don't try and add any separate physics model to try and make drifting cooler or seem more accessible. That is what Need for Speed and those types of games always do, and it ruins it. It just ruins the whole immersion of the experience. So if they can just implement these physics and make drifting courses, or even if people just make their own drifting courses, I think they could really have something with that. So I'm going to run around here for a little while and try and get, because I was getting some really good strings earlier when I was off camera and really paying attention. So I'm going to try and get one of those together and be back with you when it happens. So I think that's going to do it for this week of Let's Race the Cone. Whoa, in next car game alpha, or pre-alpha. Next week I think we're going to move on to something new. Hopefully, I am looking at a game that looks pretty exciting to me. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to afford to buy it, but if I am, I will definitely do so and do that for next week. If not, maybe we'll do something pre-existing in my library of games for Let's Race the Cone. But stay tuned for that. Hope you enjoyed, and I hope you do check out Next Car Game by Bugbear Entertainment. It is a lot of fun, even in this very early stage with limited cars and tracks. But it's still a lot of fun, and I'm still finding new things to do in it, even after about 3 weeks of messing around with these 2 cars and 3 tracks. So yeah, definitely check it out. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.